friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Monday This and That, where I talk about all kinds of different topics, giving you updates on things going on around here, answering questions that may have come in, and whatever else I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with my Kitchenaid. Now, I didn't feel like, the thing's kind of heavy, okay? I really didn't feel like bringing it over here again because it's on the opposite side of the kitchen, but I'll be putting some pictures in here. Now, some of you may remember a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how I finally broke down, bought a Kitchenaid, and the first thing I did, well, it was on sale. Okay, now I got a good price on it. And the first thing I did was make a few batches of marshmallows, and it was just so much easier than having to do it with my hand mixer, which is one of the reasons why I hadn't done it in quite a number of years. But let me tell you, the marshmallow thing is a lot of fun, and you can tailor them, flavor them your own way. I still have some more experimentations to do. I haven't made any more since because things have been really crazy with family get-togethers and the like. So I will eventually get to making that video. But the other thing I did do after working with it with the marshmallows is I went ahead and broke down and also bought the ice cream attachment. So this is the bowl with the the mixer thing that comes with it. And it was also on sale. I know it was a real sale price because I looked at it in the past. And yes, I already have an ice cream maker that my mom bought for me quite a number of years back, probably like 20 years ago. And it still works, and I've been using it. But I thought, well, if this thing ever breaks down, now that we're just like never buying any ice cream from the store anymore, I thought that it would be nice to have a backup plan now that I have the Kitchenaid. And let me tell you something. I like it way better than my other setup, mostly because it is so much easier to clean the attachments that are used for the mixing than with the original ice cream maker I have. Now, I'm still keeping that ice cream maker. I boxed it up, I labeled it, and put it in storage, and that will free me up space inside the house. And I had to do a little finagling because some of you who've been following me for a long time know that one of my issues with the kitchen appliances is things that take up more space on my counter they're not things that I'd want to have to pull out and put away. Like the ice cream maker at least was lightweight, my old one, where the Kitchenaid not so much, but I can at least drag it across the counter. And so anyway, I'm very much pleased with it. Now, I do remember in a previous video I did that somebody mentioned having the ice cream attachment and they weren't happy with it, but other people had it and said they did. Now, I do know that things kind of change over the years. They upgrade stuff, so maybe it has to do with that. However, one thing you got to know is that you need to freeze that bowl for at least a day. Ignore what the instructions say. They say like 16 hours. No, it needs to be a full day, because if you don't, I mean, the same goes with my other one. I figured several hours, half a day would be good enough. No, it needs at least a full day. In fact, I like to give it a couple days to make sure it is as frozen as it can be, because if it's not frozen enough, like, because I did with the ice cream bowl, I tried it twice. The first time I was thinking, okay, it should be pretty frozen. It's been in here for, I would say, at least 16 hours. It wasn't enough. And so I had to put it back in the freezer and wait another day, put all the ice cream, pour it back into my blender and just kind of save it. And then the next day it was great. It worked great. I love it. There's so many things about it I like better. And since the Kitchenaid is already sitting out, all I got to do is pull it out and then put the bowl attachment in there. Whereas with my other one, I got to pull all the pieces down out of the cabinet I have in here, because I don't have any place here in the kitchen. I have to store it in the cabinet out in the laundry area. But now I can use that space in the cabinet for food storage again, which is what I had in there. It's mostly where I store my shelf-stable milks, you know, canned milks, powdered milks, etc. So I just want to say my initial thoughts so far on the Kitchenaid mixer is that I really, really like it. Now, so far, I've only made the marshmallows with it and the ice cream with it. And I believe that little hook that comes with it is for making bread. Though I will continue to knead my own bread, make it by hand, I do like knowing I have that option if, let's say down the road, I get arthritis. I mean, I am 60 years old. It could set in at any time. I mean, I hope not, but it can happen. And I know for a lot of people, having either a bread maker or something like the Kitchenaid that has that attachment that needs the bread, I know that's really a lifesaver for them, where they can still have the homemade bread and not put that stress on their hands. So there's things like that that I started considering as I listened to a lot of you, or at least read a lot of your comments on those who have a Kitchenaid mixer and what all you do with it. And that was what made me finally break down and do this after probably about 15 years of going back and forth on, do I want it? It's another thing to take up space, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of expensive. Is it worth it? All these things. And it was your comments that helped me finally make that decision. And thus far, I am quite happy with it. So if any of you have been on the fence like I was for so many years, here's my experience, so you can kind of, consider that again and see if that's something that's going to be worth it to you. But, I think it's always wise, before you make an investment in anything that's kind of expensive, especially if you can't find one secondhand, which I could not. I did try. I could not find one secondhand that wasn't pink for some weird reason, or black or white. And black and white are really boring, and I don't care for pink. And so I was like, at least burgundy or any shade of green I would be happy with. But no, nobody that's selling them secondhand for a good price have the color that I would want. So maybe I'm just a little bit too picky on that. However, just like with a Vitamix, which I do not have, a freeze dryer, which I absolutely do not have and never will, and my country living grain mill, which is quite expensive as well, these are all things that you want to really look into before you take that dive and spend the money, just because someone like me might be talking about how much they like theirs. It still may not be suitable for you. It might not. Maybe you have the money, or maybe you have the ability to set aside a little bit and just save up for one, but maybe in the end, it's still not going to be the best option for you. So don't ever feel pressured into buying something just because your favorite YouTuber has one and likes it. I'm just sharing my own personal experience. Now, moving on from there, let's talk about the green beans I have sitting here. So I really should have got started on these sooner, but because of the family reunion we had going on, I had planned, and all the family coming over and camping out the property, and we camped out there too, by the way. In fact, we were going to set up our tent out there, and then Patrick goes, you know what, we got the box truck out there. And remember, some of you maybe remember, he camped it out in it at a men's conference thing, camp out, whatever. And I'm like, that would be so much easier because it's already there. Well, Patrick moved it and backed it in such a way because we can open up that back door. And here's a little video clip I took after we got the cot set up in there. And it was definitely so much easier just to have that. And we did close the back door at night, though, because it got really cold here in the evenings. It's still August. It's still getting really cold in the evenings. It's like we're already going into fall. Side issue. I got off topic. But anyway, I really needed to just kind of wait until all of that was done. So got out there and started harvesting beans. Now, one thing I like about having my smaller All-American canner that I got at a garage sale, because I have the big one I've had for a long time. I always like to wait until I had enough beans to fill up that canner, which for the wide mouth pints means 14 pint jars. And because I don't want to can anything with just one layer. I want to be able to fill the whole thing up. Well, one thing I'm liking about the smaller one is that I can just do them as I go. It doesn't take as long to heat up. And so I just went ahead. I can only fit 5 wide mouth pints. I think I could do 6 if I do regular mouth, but for certain things I really like having the wide mouth. Got my first batch done. In a couple days I'll be doing more. However, I wanted to say one more thing about these beans. Now you'll notice there's a little X right down there. Each one of these jars has a little X. There's a reason for that. And I don't do anything fancy with my beans. Just a little salt, the water, the beans. I can fancy them up later on. I like keeping my canned goods somewhat plain so I can make them go with whatever I want them to go with. And it's easier that way too. But anyway, I have an X on each one of these lids. And the reason for that was, even though I know I'd done it before, I don't know which lids I had used, which jars. So I thought I'd do it again and mark them in such a way so I would know which was which. And all of these jars, don't hate me, canning Nazis, for this, but I had to experiment, are Superb lids, of course, which is pretty much all I'll ever use now. Made in the USA, and I do have an affiliate link. Best lids ever, in my personal opinion. But these were ones I'd used previously for canning. In fact, there's one here that I could still see the writing a little bit where I had canned potatoes in with it last year. So I am actually going to be leaving this particular batch out for a while just to keep an eye on them. Now, so far I have not lost a seal on my Superb lids, so whichever one I canned last year or previous years where I used recycle lids, it was just like 1 or 2. I haven't come across any yet that have lost their seal, so it must be holding. But now that I know for certain, because the little mark I put on there, this will make it easier for me to keep track to see how well they hold. I'm just saying that I know there's plenty of people out there that reuse lids. We're always taught that, oh, you should never reuse lids. But let me tell you something, that is a newer thought. And I do believe part of that is to keep people buying new lids all the time. However, I wouldn't trust the more modern ball or Kerr lids only for vacuum sealing. And even then, it's kind of iffy these days. But the Superb lids have a much thicker gummy layer, that, sealing layer on there. And I would assume you could probably actually can in them several times. And then from there, if they're still in decent condition, use them for vacuum sealing. So far, sealed up great. You can see me picking it up by the lid and no issues here, right? Each one of these. Everyone's sealed tight. Even this one here that has just a little bit of dent right there from where I opened it, and I wasn't as careful as I should have been. And then I wanted to give you an update on my hen that I was talking about that had the back of her neck ripped open from some of these young roosters running around, which we will be taking out in just a few days. Her wound is pretty much healed over. I mean, it's all closed up. The Manuka honey did an amazing job. But here's the thing. She would be healed up even better if it wasn't for the fact that it got ripped open 2 more times. But that Manuka honey, immediately just keeping it on there. One was because somehow she got herself out. She might have did part of that in the way that she got herself out. It took me a while to figure out how she did it because I was keeping her in an isolated area outside during the day. And it could be that also another one of those young roosters managed to get a hold of her. And then the second time she opened up a little bit when she got out again. So I've got that all taken care of. There's no way for her to get out now. At least I don't think. She's getting tired of being alone during the day is what it is. So I kind of had to start over a couple times. But I am really impressed with how well that is working. And I'm not putting it on her now because it's all closed over now. Right now I'm using a different solution, which is a mixture of castor oil and a certain other oil that I'm not allowed to talk about on YouTube, but I can give you hints. It is one that starts with a T and it comes from pine resin. And so I mix a 50-50 blend. It's the same thing I use for hot spots on dogs. It really helps. It also, for dogs, it makes them not want to lick at their hot spots. And for the chicken, not only will it help speed up the healing with the castor oil and that, but the smell of that particular thing, it smells very strongly of pine. That will also, once we take out these young roosters, I'm going to start letting her mingle again with the rest of the chickens. And that will also help keep them wanting to rip at her, bite at her neck. So I think it's mostly just 1 or 2 of the young roosters I have to worry about, and those are going to freezer camp very soon. And then another thing I keep forgetting to tell you guys about, this goes back several months, but one of the chicks from my second hatching, well, this one kept leaking. It looked like just pure water. And everywhere I put it, water would just leak out of it. So I finally got to looking closely at it, and I realized when it pushed itself out of the egg, it had actually partially pulled. The umbilical cord had not disconnected properly, and it actually partially pulled you could see some of the egg yolk, because they absorb that egg yolk just before they push out of their egg. And that's where they survive on that for like 2 days. They don't need to eat or drink anything because of that. But with this chick losing all that water, I'm like, this thing's going to dehydrate, because it just was losing so much water. Once I realized that, I did a little looking around, and I think I finally found someone who had the same issue, and they used witch hazel right on that area where their umbilical cord connects. And all I had to do was do that once, and it just immediately dried it up. And it's one, I don't know which of the 4 chicks, it could be one of the males or one of the females, but they're all very healthy. So immediately dried it up, didn't dehydrate. And just a little trick I thought I'd share with you guys who have chickens if something like that happens. Witch hazel is a really good and natural astringent to help with many things, including your chickens. And while I'm going to be shooting a separate video on this, I'm going to cover this real quick. Some of you saw a couple of posts I put on YouTube, Facebook. I did delete the original post because I don't know where this belief came up from, because it was long before memberships on YouTube were put into place, where memberships, the creator gets a 30% cut of membership fees. But memberships are a fairly new thing from way back. There were a lot of us that had the belief that the split was 30% to YouTube, 70% to the creator. The creator gets 70%. Sorry, I misspoke on that. Then when I read they're doing some more changes on YouTube again, and you have to agree to these changes, and I'm reading through that, it said you will be getting, for the ad fees, that the split would then be 55-45, which had me, by the wording and what I already believed, thinking that we were going from getting a 70% cut of the ad revenue down to 55%. There was a couple people that told me that wasn't quite right, and so I did some more research and found out that the cut has always been 55-45. So I don't know, maybe it was when the chats came in that this idea of 30-70 came in, and I just never knew what cut we were getting. It's really, let me tell you, it's really hard to find that information on your dashboard. You're looking all over for that. I had to go look it up elsewhere to finally find out the truth. So I wanted to clear that up, that YouTube takes almost half of our ad revenue, even though they also get money from the advertisers to be able to place their ads in our videos. Hello? Does that even seem fair? But I can understand them getting paid for the site, even a 10% cut, but good gravy, they're taking almost half. Now, with that though, I still believe it's really important that people understand that with donations through Super Chat, Super Thanks, YouTube gets a 30% cut, but it doesn't stop there. Because I have noticed, which is also very hard to find, but happened to see, where somebody had, I never asked for these things, but every now and then I got 1 or 2 different people that might like to give a Super Chat while I'm doing my live. And I'm like, I saw how much I made off the super chat since I get so few of them. And I'm like, I know that person donated double that. So I was only getting half of that. Well, here's what I learned is that if the people making the donations are using Apple iOS to do that, Apple takes a cut as well, which reduces the creator. The actual money they get from that donation ends up being less than half. I think it's like 48 or 49% of whatever it is you donate. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I am not asking for donations. I think people really misunderstood my point. I was just trying to clear things up, and I want people who donate through YouTube in any form, whether it be membership fees, or super chats or super thanks, to understand that YouTube gets a pretty decent cut. And I know I would want to know that before I donated to anyone. In fact, people set up a GoFundMe, for example, and I don't do GoFundMe. I do not donate through GoFundMe because they take their own cut. Understandable, not as big as YouTube's though. However, I would rather whatever money I'm going to donate, that person get all of it. And so there are other ways to do it. For me, if I find out a person has a PayPal account, then I will send them the money as family and friends. Don't select merchandise. You got to select as to family or friends if you want them to get all of it. If you send it as, you're buying merchandise because you get that choice at the end, then PayPal will take a cut. But anyway, I just want to clarify, I am not asking for donations. I'm just trying to make sure people understand how it works. This is one of the other reasons why I won't do memberships and have ads all through my videos. The main reason, the number one reasons I don't do that is I don't like having special elite clubs where people feel left out if they can't afford to pay into it. And also because I don't want people being annoyed by a bunch of commercials. Now on Rumble, I don't have that option. I never watch my videos on Rumble, but I was just watching one and an ad showed up in the middle of it. And I was reminded again that I don't have that option on Rumble. There's, at least on YouTube, I have an option to select only having the videos or the ads at the very beginning, at the very end, and never mid-roll ads. I wish Rumble would give us that option so I could turn that off. Of course, I only make like 25 cents a day or less on Rumble, but at any rate, this is just me sharing that with you. So if you're one to pay for the memberships on YouTube to your favorite channels, to donate money through super chats or super thanks or whatever, I think you should know how much of your money is actually going back to YouTube. And sadly, the creator doesn't get as much of it as you may think. So, and especially if you're using the Apple iOS to make that donation, then the creator's getting less than half. And it's really kind of criminal, but that's how it works. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my this and that for the week. And any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put them in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.